and deep space.
I am Karl and dragons. Like not even just one dragon. I'm like an amalgamation of dragons.
I mean, to be
Like,
fair, like industrial numbers of Shendus would be excellent.
Oh, good old Shendu.
I mean, tragically, Jackie Chan Adventures is not this week's episode, but please comment with more Jackie Chan Adventures, and we will absolutely do another episode on that.
I do love Jackie Chan Adventures, although the most recent time I've watched it was it made it a drinking game, where there's like every time Uncle says one more thing, every time Jackie says Jade, anytime anybody says Jackie.
For the record, one more thing is such a good line for that, though. Because, yeah, you drink one more weirdly, that, like, makes sense. Like, the logistics I can get behind on that. But before we go into hypothetical drinking games, what's new with the world of Karl? And then our audience has probably invented their own drinking games, like, whenever we mention the tattoos, take a shot.
Hopefully our audience has invented their own drinking games.
That's how I would get through our show.
Okay, so what's new with me? I'm going to have to take you on 2 quick flashbacks.
So, are we talking a quick flashback like last time on X-Men, which is actually a quick flashback? Or are we talking that we need to go through Naruto's life story, including Jiraiya dying, and then the nestled flashback of Kid Naruto sharing an ice cream cone, then nestle that flashback into an episode of Boruto?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping they'll be quick because, you know, like you said, we unfortunately have limited bandwidth for how long our episodes can be and consistently be posted. So we got to rein it in against.
Don't give them the game. The moment they realize that our episodes aren't deliberately like that, they might expect something. Like, now they can have an opinion whether our episodes should be shorter or longer, when before we just episoded at them at random. Don't let them have choices.
Okay. Anyway,
we have an infinite budget, so they're aware. But please support us. Continue.
Okay, so flashback number 1. I needed a desktop computer. This is probably close to a decade ago. I needed a desktop computer, and I didn't want to wait for shipping, and I didn't want to go through the hassle of building my own computer. Plus, my budget was too low. Like, if you're buying a computer for less than $1,000. A store-bought computer will be cheaper and more effective.
Disclaimer, we are not tech pros.
Well, I mean, PC enthusiasts would say, build your own computer. And I'd say, yeah, but that's really only worthwhile if you're willing to drop like $1,000 or more. If you're under $1,000, a pre-built computer will just get you more bang for your buck.
Oh, can I give a little segue quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you ask me to fix your computer, and you're using a Mac, please ask what kind of computer someone has before you ask them if they can fix your computer. Just a public service announcement. If you have an Apple, find a hipster in a coffee shop somewhere. If you have a real computer, I'll be willing to help you.
Anyways, so I go to Best Buy and I buy a $600 computer.
Ooh, I got entered in a draw to win a $500 Best Buy gift card today, but please continue.
But so I buy my computer, I bring it home, I boot it up, and there's a whole bunch of bloatware. It's just like all sorts of programs on there. And I was like, I do not want this. So I uninstall them all, and then I get an error screen that suggests that my hard drive is failing. I'm like, well, that's not possible. I literally just bought this. So I do a system restore. Wouldn't you know it, System Restore brings back all of the bloatware that I just deleted.
Does this end with a knife through a computer?
No. I go through, I delete it all again, and I get the same error message. It's like, okay, well, that's stupid. So I go back to Best Buy. I'm like, hey, this is what happened with my computer. Can you guys get rid of this bloatware for me?
So just for the sake of internal consistency and which shade of sepia tone, when did this happen again? Like 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay, please continue.
Anyways, I go to Best Buy. I'm like, hey, like I don't want all this bloatware, but when I uninstalled it, it gives me this error that my hard drive is failing, and I don't think it is. Can you guys help me? And they're like, yeah, we would just do a factory reset, and that bloatware would just be back again. And I was like, oh, all right, so I got to figure out my own solution. And so then I found the media creation tool from Windows, to which you install onto a USB drive, and then you basically reinstall Windows from the USB drive, and that'll clean wipe everything. And once you know it, that computer continued to work for probably 8 or 9 years until I accidentally knocked it over with my shin, which really hurt my shin and apparently killed the computer.
Ironically, the exact fate of Shin from Gundam Seed Destiny. Please continue.
But so given that bloatware seems to have some sort of code to make it seem like you need that bloatware for your computer to function, when you clearly don't, because my computer
Let's
never
call it
had
what
any
it
hard
is.
drive.
Let's call it what it is. It is cursed. They have hexed it. Please continue.
Anyway, so when this curseware obviously is not essential for the computer, despite them trying to make it seem like I actually do need it, whenever I get a new computer, my first instinct is to go on to the Microsoft website, download the media creation tool, and then just do a clean install of Windows to make sure that there's no residual bloatware from the factory.
AKA a modern-day exorcism.
All right. So that was flashback number 1.
Okay, so far so good. Did not give me any extra chakra reserves, but fair.
Okay, flashback number 2. As I'm sure our viewers are aware, I work at a pizzeria, and I have worked at this pizzeria probably, I think I got the computer.
Oh, you just broke our immersion.
I think I got the computer after I started working at the pizza place.
They're listeners, not viewers. We're a radio show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, some people view us on YouTube, assumably, maybe in the background. I don't know.
I have a little monologue about Xbox that has to do with that, but please continue.
Anyways, so I work at a pizzeria. I've worked there for a long time. And my uncle, he was driving through town for whatever reason, and he made a point of stopping by my house to take me out for breakfast and tell me to get a better job.
I remember this. I remember this conversation. Oh, wow, yeah.
And
it resulted in me going back to school.
That's pretty funny. For me, I found it very condescending, but I did think that it came from a place of concern that I was spending my youth working for a pizza store with no foreseeable long-term gain.
Oh man, can I stop and give you a motivational monologue? The kind of monologue I'd give off stream.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day, me and my brother are hanging around, and like we normally do, we are making fun of Karl. We just do that casually when you're off screen. And
I mean, you do sometimes Panda does sometimes make fun of you.
Correct. So we're chatting, and it's like, I'm like, I wouldn't lose to Karl's. Like, Karl's winning right now. He's on his way to visit you. If it was the other way around, you'd be winning. So quite frankly, to give a little context here, you chose the pizzeria route. I don't think anyone's paying for me to go to hotels. Or do I have an electronics expense? I don't know. This route seems to be panning out pretty good. You're objectively beating me at life at the moment. I'm going to have to go be a lawyer to counterspell you.
Well, that was the point of flashback number 2, was to bring it back around to modern day, where I was on a work trip recently. If you want to find out when, just go back and watch our previous episodes.
Smooth. 6 out of 10. Great segue.
But while I was on my work trip, I had broken my personal laptop, which is what I was normally using for these work trips. And so
that's the flour grinder, right?
The flour grinder. Yeah, it was noisy. But so I asked the franchise development guy, he's like, hey, do you think I might be able to expense a laptop? And he's like, okay, ask the owner of the franchise as a whole. And so I asked him, he's like, okay, ask the other owner. And so I asked the other owner, and he's like, well, how much? I'm like, well, the one I'm looking at is about $300. He's like, oh, that sounds pretty cheap. You sure you don't want a more expensive one? I was like, No. I don't need a more expensive one because like my use case scenario is emails, word processing, and occasionally light image editing. And so I bought this cheap laptop, and I take it back to the hotel, and I boot it up for the first time, and it's like, okay, let's get you connected to Wi-Fi. And every other operating system I've used thus far, you can skip that step. Windows 11 has decided that you can't skip that step. I don't know if it's like a verification thing, like the old school genuine Windows, where if you didn't activate your Windows with a certain time period, it would like turn your background to black and stop certain functions from working. I don't know. But probably some sort of authentication thing. But I was at a hotel and I needed to connect to Wi-Fi, which would then open a web browser that I need to click a link to log into the Wi-Fi. And I just cannot do that on the first boot up because it's like you can't open the web browser while you're starting up Windows for the first time. So I was immediately frustrated by Windows 11 because I had to use my phone's hotspot to be able to boot up Windows for the first time.
That is deeply
but so
tragic.
Yeah, and I ended up using up all my high-speed data for the month doing that too. It was like, oh, dang it.
Like, it's funny.
Anyways.
Like, a while back, we had a power outage, well, an internet outage, and we went to watch some of our Transformers DVDs like you do. And we learned something that modern Xboxes, even if they have a disk drive, have to download a separate DVD player to play a DVD. So none of our devices could actually play a DVD anymore. Which was sort of deeply defeating. It's kind of like how the Switch, you're like, oh, if you want to play Super Mario Bros., you need an internet connection. And I'm like, oh, well, you did it with every other device you've ever made, but okay. No one owns nothing anymore, is my old man rant.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of starting to feel the same way. It's like, I understand the subscription model is financially sustainable, but it's annoying. But more to the point, is like, okay, so I get my laptop set up, and then, as mentioned in the flashback there, I go to Microsoft.com, download the media creation tool, and I go to run it to make my USB drive, and it's like, yeah, no, you can't run this program. I'm like, well, why
Excuse
not?
you and your entire race, quote Frieza.
And it's like, well, your computer is in Windows S mode, so you can only run apps that come from the Windows Store. I'm like, I literally download this from the Microsoft website. It is to install Windows, and it's not verified because it's a program instead of an app. I mean, technically they're the same thing, but like...
Apparently not. Apparently,
architecturally,
technically they're not.
Technically they're not. Programs are not considered apps. And so then I'm like super frustrated. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it turns out you can opt out of S mode, and it's like a one-time thing. You can never go back to S mode if you opt out. I don't know why it's one way, but you never can. So I opt out and I run the file, and then I realize I didn't download the media creation tool. I downloaded a different tool by accident.
Oh.
So then I have to download the actual media creation tool, and I start running it, and then I'm sitting there for like 3 hours while it's like painfully slowly like downloading my I kind of connected to the hotel Wi-Fi at this point, so it's painfully slowly downloading all the necessary stuff.
For those listeners not familiar with the struggle, Saskatchewan internet speeds are kind of not great. There was once a time where I lived in the middle of nowhere. Our address was longitude and latitude, and we were watching Naruto Shippuden, and the video would take 1 minute to buffer 10 seconds. So me and my brother would play video game rounds between our 10 seconds buffer to watch chunks of an episode. Just imagine not waiting 10 seconds for your video to load, waiting 5 minutes to watch 10 seconds. That is all. You may resume.
Well, the saddest part of it all is that the program didn't even actually fully execute. It like failed at like the last, like it was like 90% done, and then it was like, oh yeah, failure.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but isn't that the exact plot of Boruto? Like, unironically? That's exactly how the whole karma thing works.
So then, in order to prepare my USB drive for this to become my media creation, my media tool, I guess, I had moved like 2 gigabytes worth of photos off of it onto my desktop. And so now I'm frustrated that the thing failed, and I go to check my email, and my email says, your Microsoft OneDrive is full. And you won't be able to receive emails because your Microsoft OneDrive is full. And I'm like, full of what? And it turns out that by default, your desktop is automatically backed up to OneDrive. The free OneDrive is only 5 gigabytes and shares data with your email if you go through Outlook. And so just putting files on my desktop had filled up my OneDrive. And I'm not going to pay a subscription for a service I never use. So I go through my OneDrive and I delete everything off of OneDrive. And I'm a little bit surprised to find that when I delete the stuff off my desktop version of OneDrive, it also deleted the stuff off my computer desktop. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird.
Terrifying.
And then I go to click on the start menu, and it's like, oh, we can't find your desktop because it got deleted. But I'm on my computer. My desktop is right there. What?
Oh no!
Why
We've
did
become
I
the old
play
fogies
this
who don't
iPhone?
understand technology. It happened. They warned us it would happen, and it did.
Well, okay, so I mean, then Windows 11 did have a few updates to make, and I believe that they fixed most of my grievances. Because now the computer seems to be working fine, and it was surprisingly light on bloatware. So I'm actually satisfied with Windows as shipped. I mean, there were a few programs I had to delete. Overall, probably one of the better pre-assembled computers that I've purchased and set up.
That is a fun plot twist at the end.
Yeah. But so then my desktop, which I bought recently, it was super cheap. We made a comment on one of our episodes about how the processor in my desktop and the processor in the Nintendo Switch are roughly the same age. Which means that it predates 2018.
Yeah.
Now this is significant because in 2018, there was a public announcement of some sort about vulnerability in processors that it would essentially, it's called Spectre or Meltdown. And essentially, a program can read memory from your cache out of sequence without administrative permissions. And then using this workaround can slowly, very, very slowly, like 64 bytes, I think it said takes like 5 hours to decode, but it can slowly rebuild all the memory on your computer and get all of your personal information.
So I was going to make a quip that it sounded like a Bond villain, and it does.
And so when I ran the check to see if my desktop would be able to run Windows 11 so that both my devices are running the same operating system to ensure they run smoothly together, this is like, yeah, no, I mean, you have everything you need, except your processor's too old. I was like, oh, well, that sucks. And so then, again, I mean, maybe I am just getting old and technologically inept, but I'm having a hard time seeing how an attack like this works. Like, how an attack like this looks to the end user, and I'm a little bit like, I don't know how dangerous it actually is. Like, how likely I am to actually have my information skimmed. Like, can I just open a website and suddenly it's decoding all of my memory and getting all my passwords.
So,
I mean, I'd assume the other site has to be open for several hours to do that, but like...
Well, what's crazy, though, about cybersecurity and anonymity on the internet, and I come from this from a place of, like, knowing tons of people who are like, oh, I need to use a pen name and have to be secretive on the internet while taking photos out front of their house of their face at what time they work at, saying, just got off my shift, lol, and putting it on Instagram.
Right.
And the thing is, theft is kind of attached to what people are trying to steal. So, for example, I had like a password leak a while back where I had to change all my passwords for the gaming company I was a part of. And now I have literally everything set up to a two-factor where someone would have to break into my house and steal my phone to get to my passwords.
Right.
So the thing is, for your work computer, you actually would have some valuable things on it. But quite frankly, most scams that I find recently really involve more social engineering than hardware scamming. Because it's like, they kind of have to know you exist to even bother trying to steal your data from you. So it's like,
the flip
I
side
wouldn't be too worried.
The flip side of that is that it costs them nothing to send out the program. However it gets onto my computer, it gets infected. But it costs them nothing to just send it out and then hopefully get something back.
I mean,
right?
my takeaway is set up two factors on things, because that would solve most of your problems. Because the thing is, most important stuff isn't actually on people's computers anymore. Like you mentioned, it's on their OneDrives and things.
Right.
Because if they steal your computer, they're going to learn about spies, they're going to learn about ranches, and they're going to learn about grid wrapping. But like a good two-factor is like just brick walls, whatever people's endeavors are.
In any event, apparently, according to The Verge, which is surprisingly mainstream media,
And not a sponsor yet.
Well, they had an article, and apparently it's super easy to change your Windows registry. I do not recommend. You could very easily brick your computer by doing something like this, but in this case, you can set your computer to be able to upgrade on an unsupported CPU. And since my computer meets all the other requirements, if I just add one line to my registry, I could install Windows 11.
This will be fun next week to learn about your brick. You know what's really funny, though, about bricking things? So, the first time I heard the term brick something was for modding a Nintendo Wii so I could make custom skins for Smash Bros. Characters.
Right.
So I always think, yeah, it makes your Wii a brick because the Wii was already brick-shaped. So it's funny to me for non-brick-shaped things to be bricked. Because they're like, cell phones getting bricked. And I'm like, they're not very brick-like, though, are they?
No, the Wii was very brick-like.
Right? Like, the Wii being bricked
true.
makes perfect sense. You could, like, stack and mortar those together to make a wall.
Well, I mean, it'd be a very thin bricks if you did it with cell phones.
And very frail. Like, a Nintendo Wii wall would hold up against, like, entire invading hordes of White Walkers.
But anyway, so the entire point of what's new with me is that, A, to bring back to the other flashback about my uncle, and you've already kind of touched on this, getting a work computer expensed by the company makes me feel like I'm proving specifically my uncle wrong. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad I'm proving his condescension to be misplaced. But just in general, it's like it makes me feel like I am, in fact, on a good work path, a good career path, despite not having much social status gained from it. I don't know what kind of job gains you more social status, but like pizza place, food service in general, unless you're actually like the head chef, just doesn't really come with much social status.
And the thing is, like, I have a full rant about the culinary industry, ready to go at any moment, because I worked in a relatively respectable 4-star restaurant for a while that shall stay nameless. And we had some of our employees be like, I got out of culinary school and I'm working here. And my instinct is, you went to school for this? To use laminated sheets of paper to pre-make recipes? To then be told you didn't weigh the chicken correctly? You went to school for this. So I honestly think, like, culinary is just a lie.
Right.
Because it's like, no, you actually want to go to business school and open a restaurant. So it's like, you're getting business training, not restaurant training. You stopped being a cook a long time ago. You open franchises now. Your resume shouldn't actually say line cook on it. Right? It should be saying helped open 13 successful franchises across whatever, like you program POS systems.
Well,
So much of life is branding.
That's definitely true. But I mean, that was actually a little bit longer than I hoped it would be because I had more to say about computers. But what's new with you there, Richard?
So, I'm on my 2-week break between semesters, and my brother pointed something out that haunts me and will torment me. So it turns out with my degree, I'm qualified to take the LSATs and go into law school if I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that seems like a lot of effort, and I spent my entire life being made fun of, so I don't feel super confident I could be a lawyer. And they take a mock test. I'm like, oh, apparently I could just be a lawyer. Right, I'm actually smart. I'm just used to being bullied, so it hasn't quite clicked in yet that objectively, I actually would be good at this, huh? So, like...
Well, I don't mean to be rude, but you don't know if you would actually be good at it. You just know that you can pass the test.
But that's the entire career, is read a thing, memorize it, write it down, and then bullshit about it.
Fair enough.
Because, I was going to go for a master's program anyway, so now I can go for a master's of English and law, which is somehow a combined master's. And each additional thing I'm qualified to apply for increases my odds that I get into something. So there's no reason to not write this test.
I mean, lawyers do come with a strange social status where everyone kind of hates on them, but at the same time, everybody knows that they're wealthy and successful.
Karl, listen. Listen to me for a moment. Just imagine you will. You're picturing my business card, right? Richard Arthur John Kivas, Wizards of the Coast rules lawyer.
It's so funny.
And the thing is, you don't have to be a lawyer to be employable by being trained in the law and having passed the LSATs and having your JD. It's like no matter what I do, it wouldn't hurt to have that on there. It's not like I'm planning to go into courtrooms. I'm planning to be like, hey, Bethesda, can I do something in your office buildings? I'm a writer and a lawyer. I'm sure that can't hurt my employment possibilities. So, I've been just kind of studying for the LSAT to take it, because if I fail it, I'm gonna not be a lawyer. If I do well on it, hey.
But you were able to pass a mock test, though.
With relative ease.
Did they give you a grade? How close are you to being a lawyer in terms of percentage based on that mock test?
It's this whole freaking thing. So law is specific language that's obtuse for no reason. So the test literally gives you a score based on the other people who take the test. And it's a weighted score. So the practice test is hey, according to this practice test, you're really good. But the actual test is a quantum state convoluted nonsense beast that I cannot accurately do justice to explain.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's different every year. They basically grade you against the people who take it. And about the top 10% actually get into the law program. So I just have to be smarter than I just have to do better on a logic test than, I think it worked out to 70% of people, and I'll be looking pretty good. So instead of the question being, can I be a straight A student, yada yada, and all that other stuff, it's, can I be smarter than people who think they want to be lawyers? And I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good, the idea that someone went to business school for 3 years and now is trying to go to law school, and it's a series of questions based solely on logic and reasoning. I'm feeling pretty good. It's like when I'd beat Tyler at Magic, where it's I'm not good at Magic. I'm just used to... Oh, wait, I guess I am good at Magic because I'm used to losing to good players. So it's if someone tells me, are you the best at something? No. Am I better than the average person? I worked customer service for 10 years. I know the average person. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, we're talking about my uncle being condescending. I don't want to be condescending, but I do find that there's some truth to the idea that optimists are actually less happy than pessimists, because they're disappointed more often by the general public.
Mm-hmm. I disagree with the statement, but I appreciate the sentiment. So, my thing is, if you're disappointed by the population, you're not a legitimate optimist. So let's look at Goku.
Well, what I mean to say, not necessarily disappointed by the population.
You don't want to hear my Goku TED Talk? Fine.
I do. But it's not less that you're disappointed by the population and more that. Again, I don't want to sound condescending, but you have to assume that everybody is dumber than you, so that you're not disappointed, or so that you're pleasantly surprised when they turn out to be as smart or smarter than you.
So for me, like, to give my Goku versus Vegeta versus Krillin quality of life analysis, Goku doesn't care what other people think or do. Goku is neither an optimist nor a pessimist. He's just living his life. That's why he's quote-unquote pure-hearted. Mm-hmm. Vegeta is a pessimist, but also stopped being miserable when it's like, okay, people just disappoint me, I'll just live my life. And I don't know where I was going with this rant. But to loop back to your original point about you have to, if you think that people are dumb, you're more willing to give them free passes on things. But I'm more
that's true.
I focus more that people genuinely don't care. Because a lot of the time, and I mean that in the nicest way, I like to assume that people don't actually think about me when I leave the room, and I'm not that impactful in their day-to-day lives. Because that's just such a better mindset than thinking it does matter severely. So when someone cuts me off while driving, I don't think, oh, this idiot. I think their brain isn't even on this task in any way, shape, or form. People are living their own lives. So when it comes to something like, oh, can I score higher on this law test than people? It's not that I think I'm smarter than these people taking the tests. I just acknowledge that a certain percentage are people who are pressured into this field, people who don't want to be in this field, people who, for whatever reason, are being told you need to be a lawyer, so either their anxiety is really high, they haven't had as much life experience, it's literally their parents are telling them they need to do this thing. Whatever millions of reasons, I just need a certain percentage of them to want it less than I do.
Fair enough.
Or be in a situation where they're not optimized for this specific task of read words, analyze words, answer words. The skill I've gained mostly from speed reading One Piece. Because my ability to remember pointless crap is borderline legendary. Where I can read the new chapter of World Trigger after 3 months and know who everyone is still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there weren't that many characters in this chapter, and it was just people getting walloped by Asuma's awesome strategy.
It's such a waste, man. So, the idea of using Tryon soldiers in battle and Borders playing around with them and they're doing Tryon soldier battles could have been introduced into something interesting instead of phase 4 of the bottle test. It's a good idea for a plot arc to have been used in the main show somewhere.
Right.
But they're using it in the most boring possible context.
And there's no way this arc can even... Well, I mean, maybe they could actually animate some of the battles instead of just skipping over them like the manga is, but
I don't even know if it'd be worth the effort.
And why wouldn't they have just done regular rank wars instead of doing chibi wars?
Indeed. But to wrap around the what's new with me, I'm on break between semesters, doing a bunch of reading, watching some anime, reading some manga, applying for grants and bursaries, sending stories off to journals, living my best life, and binge-watching Knuckles. And at this point, our episode, I think, will still continue on the topic of technology failures. So to loop back around a bit, why is it that the Nintendo Switch is the only system you can't actually buy old console games on and have them be on your console proper? I actually phrase it as a question. If the Switch had a cart, how much would you pay for a cartridge that just had every first-party Nintendo Super NES game on it? Would you pay $80 for that?
Yeah, see, that is the interesting thing, because it's like emulators, even officially licensed emulators, are ultimately just emulators and ROMs, and the older games just take up so much less space.
Right?
So when I was younger, my dad got a computer, and it had a 500 megabyte hard drive. And I was thinking to myself, it's like, man, that's so massive. You'd never be able to use all that space. And now you need like 8 gigabytes just to be able to download and install a new operating system. And so it's like the sheer amount of space that we actually have compared to the amount of space that older technology actually needs, it's crazy that you could fit like every single Super Nintendo ROM onto a single cartridge that you'd be able to put into your Switch. But that's not profitable because subscription systems are the way to maintain.
And I've been having some struggles with what constitutes a fair video game price lately. So over Reading Week, I downloaded a game called 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim.
Okay.
I paid full price for this video game because #tax returns.
Okay.
And the game is a science fiction game where you follow 13 characters through, and then there's like an RTS mech battles that happen, but the game's very clearly divided into its two sides, the story side and the mech battle side. And you walk around in like 2.5D, and you just talk and find clues. Like it's like if a visual novel was presented with the game in the style of Dungeon Fighter, not the gameplay, the style of.
Yeah, okay.
They're very pretty hand-drawn sprites, but half the game is literally just text and like picking up clues and then talking to people about the right clues.
Yeah.
This game had one of the best stories I've ever read. Through its 13 characters, it like... You know how I'm pretty good at predicting plot twists?
Right.
They had like cascading folding plot twists. Where like the talking cat convincing people to shoot them with the magic gun was installing a code to summon Gundams, which was actually being used to spread a virus, to defeat a counter virus, so that way the character wouldn't grow up to then resurrect his android girlfriend, because this was a scam to make him fall in love with someone else on this loop, because they're in a series of cloning loops. Like, it was just built on itself fantastically. So I play this game pretty relentlessly for a solid 2 weeks. Well, a solid week about. And I've completed this game 100% at this point. Modern game design mythos would be like, $80 should give you infinite quests, infinite dungeons, and your game better have a large enough map that you need a jetpack to get across it. But this game, with its relatively simple presentation, and its most expensive part being the voice work, was one of the best things I've played in a long time. It had a lot of really innovative ideas, and it was basically narrative driven, but it was very fascinating. Like, you follow one character, and you expect their plot's going to be awesome because they're from before World War I, and then they get warped to the future and they're a soldier. And it was literally about them scrounging for change to get snacks from the convenience store, and trying to explain to their girlfriend who turned out to be a boyfriend that it's not that they're lying about the gender that made them not like them, it's that they're a lying sack of crap, and if they can get over that, they can be together. So it's like, this guy was such a himbo, it was amazing. He's just like, no, listen. It's like, what, does it bug you when I flirt with other people? He's like, yes, also alien stuff. Do we care? No? Okay, fine. I'm going to get a sandwich. And it was a very majestic story, but I would have a hard time telling someone it was worth $80. However, it was better than, I don't know, to me, better than the Fallout 4 probably, which objectively would be worth that much money.
That does sound like it was better than Metroid Dread.
And Metroid Dread also was absolutely, in one sense, not worth $80, but I beat it in its entirety, where the Metroid Prime Collection, which should be worth more, I have not beaten in its entirety. So that's kind of my question to you for, like, on our tech topic is, how much value is something actually worth? Like, Minecraft, we've paid $20 once ever, and put billions of hours into it. But also we had to, like, set up and run a server, which we just kind of lost that power at this point.
Yeah.
And to loop back to emulation, I just went through a full contract class about why theft will kill me as a writer and creator. And it's like, no, the laws that help, like, Nintendo help you because you create media content, you putz, was pretty much what my prof was screaming at us the whole term is, if you guys just steal your music and your art and your pornography and no one gets paid for these, that's bad. You make these things, idiots. Oh, speaking of scams and hacking and things, I saw one of the funniest scams. So the scam is, they send you an email that says your email was used to sign up for this porn site. Reply to this thing to unsubscribe. If you reply to that thing and log in to unsubscribe, they have your account information. That scheme is so good because it plays incredibly on insecure spouses and partners who are like, oh no, it says on this on our family email that I'm on an adult site, so I'm going to panic unsubscribe and fall for the scam.
Well, I mean, that comes back around to what I was talking about with this, the meltdown or Spectre vulnerability, in that if you happen to send an email at the right time, like, say, someone ordered a package off Amazon or something, and then they get a text message that says that their package is being held at some warehouse or held up at the border, and because they had the package on the way, they decide to click through because they're like, oh, this could actually be my Amazon package. It doesn't cost them anything to just spam out these messages and hope that they get that one person who might actually accidentally be in the right mindset to fall for the scam. So, like, technology scams in particular are just about volume and not even necessarily about quality. Like the Nigerian prince scam. It's like, sure, most people are like, this is stupid. Some people are like, oh, I'm going to troll this guy back because this is stupid. But then some people, like I had a roommate who fell for a similar scam, send their rent money because they think that they're going to get $1 million worth of gold in return.
And when you're desperate enough.
Well, when you're desperate enough, or when you're just uneducated on cybersecurity, which, I mean, I feel woefully uneducated on cybersecurity because, like I say, I don't even really understand what these types of viruses and attacks look like as an end user, which is kind of the most important part. Like the technical part, knowing that, like, the Spectre vulnerability reads the cache out of sequence without administrative permissions, and like the technical part is like, that makes sense, kind of, but like, what do I even need to do to stop myself from potentially accidentally clicking a link that would initiate this kind of attack? You know?
Well, that's fair. And, like, it's kind of funny because neither of us are tech specialists. And it's amusing because I usually end up as the work tech specialist. Because we're from a weird time period of tech where people who come just 10 years after us, everything's now automated. So they would never think to download software onto a flash drive to remove bloatware. But you go a generation ahead of us, and they actually had to know, like, the code behind things, piecing it together. I just think it's interesting, because I remember doing things that were pretty tech impressive in my youth, like making a website, running a Minecraft server. And it's like, part of my knowledge has backslid and pivoted, but other parts are just randomly stick through. Like, I'll be making a website on a website maker, and then I'll see the HTML button and be able to manually fix the thing that's bugging me.
Right.
Or it's like, I just, like, remember, we're like, oh yeah, how tech-savvy we sounded modding a Nintendo Wii when it was just following an internet guide. Hypothetically, off the record, this is a comedy show. Nothing I say is admissible in court to Nintendo.
I do wonder if you could get in trouble for that nowadays.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, they tried really hard to make it difficult to be able to put your own software onto.
Well, the big thing that will get us now is the Wii didn't have those, like, EU-LA license agreements. I consent to this before I use this machine. So, like, things like a Nintendo 64 and a normal Nintendo basically say you void the warranty. Modern stuff says we'll send Pinkertons to your house to reclaim it. And with that, shall we pivot into the random question of the day?
Sure.
Pick any band to play at your funeral.
Pick any band to play at my funeral. The Zombies.
Nice. Just no notes. Nailed it.
I mean, ironically, I don't actually even I don't know that the Zombies are actually currently producing music. Some of them might even be dead. But
Magic might be involved in this specific hypothetical.
just for the novelty, it would be amazing.
Right? Like, ironically, I'd love to have Dragon Force playing, because it's just like,
Ooh.
at a funeral, I'm just picturing my family with some of their fakeness being like, oh, we knew him so well and we missed him, and then just extreme guitar playing at them. Would be like, who was this person? Like, exactly. How dare you? How dare you think you can predict my nonsense? Vengeance! Oh,
Okay, actually,
wow.
I have a random question for you there, Richard. And I don't know if we have any live viewers, but
We do.
If we do, if anyone wants to answer, would you buy pottery from a haunted house?
Yes!
You're not worried at all about getting cursed or anything?
So, I think it was in one of the two Aruno Index novels. So a character got cursed that everything they did would fail.
Okay.
So they came up with some super elaborate plan that ascended them to godhood, because that was the only way they could fail at their objective, was to break the curse.
Okay.
And the theory is that if I have some cursed object, either I'm unlucky, which, oh no, Richard, unlucky, what would that be like?
Okay.
Or I now have scientific evidence of magic.
Ooh.
So either this pottery is just nice pottery, or I can, like, figure out its property. Like, I think it was an episode of Rick and Morty where they, like, removed the double-edged part of cursed objects. Be like, yes, these cursed shoes that make you an excellent runner but force you to run till you die. I put them here on a puppet and put that on a wheel, and now you have free energy. So, like, the cursed pottery, like, say the curse was something like, I don't know. Your loved one will die in 72 hours if you water this fern. Oh man, could I make some money on Craigslist? Huh?
You have to water the fern, or you don't have to water the fern?
If you do water the fern in 72 hours, someone you know dies.
See, I was thinking maybe the curse would be more dramatic if you forget to water your fern. Their healthiness is linked to the healthiness of the plant.
Yeah, but what I do with that is I sell it to someone awful and tell them that they don't water this fern, their loved one dies, and to somebody that's a blessing.
Fair enough.
And I make some of that cash money.
I mean, I would also buy pottery from a haunted house, but mostly just for an excuse to like see what's up with this haunted house and see how far they're willing to let me explore.
Well, yeah, like zero hesitation. I'm from the rough streets of Saskatoon. You think a ghost scares me?
So did anyone in chat chime in?
Unfortunately, no chime-ins for chat on this one, but thank you for giving them the opportunity. None of them have answered the would you buy a cursed pot from a haunted house. But with that, thank you for tuning into this episode's Deep Space and Dragons, where we explore the sci-fi concept that is Karl loading software on his computer.
And also objectively winning at life.
Indeed.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm winning.
And tune in next week where we self-actualize some random concept into existence.
All right. I love self-actualization.
Indeed. We could talk about anything next week. We really, really could.
Could even be a boat.
Indeed. You know, actually, Richard and Karl Get a Boat is so good that it wouldn't be our podcast. That'd be our, like, first Prime series. And our last, due to boat-related mishaps.
Yeah, neither of us have a boating license.
Neither of us should be trusted with a boat.
Thanks for listening. Self-care, yada yada.
Indeed. And eat a vegetable. Bye.
Bye.